All right. Well, everybody, welcome to Soulscast episode 2, Dark Souls 3 rumors. What we know. I'm Adam Blue, and
I'm Shane Norton.
Yep, we got Shane here, back again. This is like 2 weeks in a row, so I'm really excited. It's actually happening. You know, usually you get these ideas and then nothing ever comes of it. You know, but
yeah, I was very excited all week to do this. So I think we should get to it.
Yes. Okay. So last week, and actually, let's we can plug ourselves real quick. You can always check this out, bluegamer.net. I'll have the MP3 up. YouTube channel is Blue Gamer. I'm Adam Blue. Twitter. Oh, I think I hit my mic. And Instagram, Adam R. Blue. Shane, your stuff.
Instagram, Kalameet, Kalameet. Twitter is the same, but replace the L with a 1. And I do have a YouTube channel that I basically just upload Bloodborne boss fights to. I'm going to do more with it, but it's just Shane Norton. I made it way before I ever thought of uploading things to it, so that's why the name sucks. But if you search for it, just look for the one that has a picture of a beer, and that's me.
Beer. Oh, man. I went to the grocery store earlier, and I was telling myself, okay, I'm going to grab just a beer so I can have while we just talk Souls. I mean, it just seems like the thing you do. Instead, I've got Capri Sun.
Yeah,
you know,
nothing wrong with that.
It's got a good taste to it. And then, obviously, it's going to make me thirsty because it's sugary, so I got a bottle of water. You know, so.
I should probably have some water, too.
So, okay. Well, let's start. Last week, this is crazy. Right after I put up our cast we did, it was leaked information on Dark Souls 3. Now, this was done through a YouTube channel called The Know, and they're the same ones that actually leaked that Silent Hills rumor about Microsoft buying the property from Konami because all that crazy Konami stuff was happening. And everyone's like, that's not true. There's no way this on. And who knows? I mean, it's outrageous, but hey, crazy things happen in the video game industry. So then they leaked a pretty extensive leak, like for a rumor, for someone to create this, because I love this series so much and I'm crazy about it, I can see someone taking the time to make this stuff up, you know, because it's fun. But it's way too crazy. So
there's a lot to it that would have taken a lot of time to fabricate just for a rumor.
Yeah, and so what it was is a bunch of screenshots, and I think there was a document with a whole bunch of information. And if you're watching the video version, I'm going to have the images kind of go through as we talk about this. And if you're listening to this, just hit up bluegamer.net, and then you can get linked to the video version somehow. But anyway, so the details. The game is to be on PS4 and Xbox One. PC is listed as negotiable. Now, that kind of makes sense since the series has always been console first, if it's a multi-platinum or multi-platform title like Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2. PC's always, I guess, when they see how well it does, which is very interesting because I always thought maybe PC was like the easiest platform to release something on. But maybe being Japanese developed, that just takes some more time. How they do it over there, I don't know.
I would be surprised if it wasn't out for PC right away like Dark Souls 2 was, because there was such an outcry for it. Well, for, I guess, the original Dark Souls, and they botched that one anyway, but I guess I would be surprised if it took longer than the game being released on the other platforms.
Right. Yeah, I really do think at this point in time, how popular the series is, how big all platforms are, you know, I would think that it would just be on there right away. Yeah. But other details, this game will support 1 to 4 players, saying it's possible to summon more than one friend. Now, in Bloodborne, can you summon more than one person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I've seen that.
You ring the bell and it just rings continuously.
Right.
Other people are ringing the different bells. I was doing co-op maybe 2 weekends ago, and I was just using, I don't remember the name of the bell, to help other people, and almost every game I was summoned into, there was already another person there. So it was usually like a 3-person squad.
And you had that video up, right? Was that of one of your sessions? Because it seemed like there was a few of you going after a guy. Is that?
Yeah, there was 3 of us, and then we got invaded. So it was the
cool.
host of the world, and then 2 phantoms, and then the guy that invaded us. And of course, I got killed first within like a minute. But I've always been very bad at the PvP
PvP.
element anyway. So
I'm the same way. But no, that was cool. I remember seeing that video. That's on your YouTube channel, right?
yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess they're kind of taking from from Bloodborne, which I think is obvious this time around. Okay, so there's
Yeah.
10 playable classes, which to me that doesn't seem like it's anything different than normal, because when you start the game, you kind of choose. I don't know if the word was class in the other games, but there's the warrior, the knight, just
Yeah,
that has the different
it's
stats. So I'm sure that's all it is, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I would assume so. And
Okay.
10 sounds like it's about the right number.
So what was interesting here, how it said 45 new enemies, 15 new bosses. Um, I don't know why it has to emphasize new so much. I mean, in Dark Souls 2 so far, and I'm probably maybe halfway through the game, if that. I don't. There's a few times that there's similar looking enemies, but I find it interesting that there's such an emphasis on new.
Yeah,
Um,
I never really thought about that, but that's a good point.
and we'll go into that later, what I think that
Yeah,
could mean when we get to speculation, but it's interesting how they emphasize new. Okay, so 100 new weapons and 40 new armor sets. That I could see, because there's, like, similar. I think it's a good idea to have all the same armor and weapons from 1 and 2, and some new stuff.
yeah.
Um,
I think that sounds good. Now, is that 100 weapons altogether, or 100 new ones plus all old ones, or I
right.
wonder if it's going to end up being like 300 weapons. I think that would be a bit too much.
Yeah, unless they take my idea from the last show with the Borderlands type read, any
You know what
weapon could have. They could be doing that, because I think it's a
I,
cool idea.
I
I'm
think they might have been listening.
But see, I'm seeing that more the more I get into Dark Souls 2. I am seeing little attributes to some of these weapons. I'm like, oh, that's a cool version of a weapon. But
Yeah,
all right, so 60 minutes of cutscenes.
that's a lot.
I mean,
That seems like a lot.
I don't even think there's 60 seconds of cutscenes in any of these games. I mean, really,
I don't
that
know. In Bloodborne, I feel like there's probably like I don't know, maybe 5 minutes,
right,
maybe even less.
right.
60 seems like I don't know. I don't even know if there's 60 in the entire series so far.
Probably not. But let me ask you: would you think it would be cool if they were to expand on story that much?
Um, Overall, yes. I kind of, even though I'm really bad with figuring out the lore, and I usually just
Yeah.
read forums and watch YouTube videos, 'cause I'm really bad at disseminating that kind of information. Um, I kind of like how cryptic it is. It's fun if you do try to figure it out by yourself, and it's open to interpretation, and there's lots of different theories and all that kind of stuff. So I like that, but at the same time, understanding the story just a little bit better might invest me even more into the games.
Especially like
Even
a
though I'm,
covenant or an
yeah,
NPC. Uh,
yeah,
um, what I'm thinking is, it's like part of me doesn't want that while I'm playing. While I'm playing, I like the mystery. But what if they were to do 60-minute movie, CG movie, just like that's released on its own?
yeah.
Like, just it's a way to
That'd be interesting.
consume more souls, but without actually, you know, playing the game and having to go through that.
Yeah.
But we'll
No,
see.
that would I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would watch it. As long as they don't shove anything in your face
Yeah.
like if I think like an Elder Scrolls game like Skyrim, or I don't even know if that had many cutscenes actually, but I don't know, any modern RPG that just every 10 minutes there's a cutscene or something. I definitely don't need that.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, there will be around 12 areas in the game. I don't think that's descriptive enough. 12 seems
That
small.
seems yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that seemed really small. I mean, Dark Souls 2 had like geez, probably I don't know, maybe 30 somewhere around
Dude,
there.
that's crazy.
That's a
So
lot.
I'm a lot further in Dark Souls 2. I'd love to just sit and talk to you about Dark Souls 2 sometime. Just with how much further I've gotten in, like, it's so big.
Yeah,
Like,
it's huge.
I keep thinking I'm early in like, I have this feeling that I'm still early in the game. Even though I keep finding these new areas, and I'm level 80 something right now.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it seems like there's so much I haven't done yet, and it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas. It opens up. I feel like it kind of opens up more as you go along in the game. The environments definitely vary quite a bit more as
Yeah.
you go towards the end of the game, but it's pretty big.
Okay, so another thing they say here will change the way you interact with players online. You'll now participate in sacrifice ceremonies. And, you know, let me say real quick, since I'm kind of like reading off of how it's written out, this is from gematsu.com, gematsu.com. I just want to give them credit because they wrote this out. And so, yeah, they're talking about sacrifice ceremonies. You can drag bodies around, choose where to sacrifice them, perform the ritual, and visit another player's game. Which,
That seems. I'm sure they'll implement it fine. It seems a
yeah.
little tedious, like dragging a body around. Like that doesn't really sound that great. I'm sure it will be fine in when it's in the game, but
Yeah, it could be like its own little meta game where you can
yeah,
pretty much get through it without worrying about it, but it's there. Okay, light sources and enemy layouts have been changed. See, that's another thing that goes along with this 45 new enemies. Light sources and enemy layouts have changed. Changed from what?
yeah. That's a pretty curious thing to
Okay,
write.
and I'll get to that in a second. Okay, boss battles have a new heat-up factor that completely changed boss battles based on undescribed factors. What that reminds me of is something I've just only seen in Dark Souls 2, is where you can do something to a bonfire, so then enemies in that area are stronger. Different
Yeah,
things
if you
happen.
use yeah if you use a bonfire aesthetic, it
Yeah.
ups everything to like new game plus essentially.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what it
new
does.
game plus.
So
Okay.
in that whatever area you're in, if you use it at a bonfire, all the enemies and the bosses in that area will get upgraded to new game plus. So if you like beat a boss and you want to go back and beat him again for whatever reason, you can do that, and you can keep doing it and doing it. So you can have an area where you're on like new game plus 7 enemies and bosses, and the rest of the game
Oh,
is
wow.
your first playthrough or whatever.
You know what? That is actually brilliant, and I can't believe, there's always things you don't realize, because I guess if there's older areas I need to go to do, do something because I got a new item, I might as well do that first, so then the trek through it is worthwhile, like the souls I get.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. But okay, yeah. So anyway, speaking of their boss battles, maybe there's an easier way where you can do that for a boss battle in case you want to make it a little more challenging, which is pretty neat. Okay. Last point, the game will add sword fighting arts, which include Rush In and Circle. The former is a sacrifice attack that allows you to dive into an opponent and take damage while delivering a hit, while the latter sounds like a dodge move. Okay, so the sword fighting arts. Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay, so Rush In. That sounds like that whole poise thing, I think. So I remember in Dark Souls I got this badass ring that allowed me to carry on with my swing animation even if I got hit. Okay?
Yeah.
So this sounds like that, just it looks like it's an ability, sword fighting arts. So either it's ability you unlock. I wonder if it's a whole new stat. I mean,
Yeah,
what the, yeah.
I'm pretty unsure exactly what that means. I'll probably say this a bunch. When they finally release the game and it's implemented, I'm sure it will be great.
Yeah.
I have no idea what to make of it.
Right.
It sounds like it's something that's not really been in the games before, so I have no idea.
Yeah, and so then this circle, this dodge, it really sounds like a way to add the quick step from Bloodborne, possibly.
That would
So,
actually be kind of cool.
yeah, to have the option to roll or dodge. If you know, like, I guess, the size of an enemy's attack that only requires a quick step to not take as much endurance off.
Yeah.
To give you that option. Okay, and so tons of screenshots. I'm sure I'm going to have a montage of them here on the video cast. But what it looks like to me is it looks like Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne. The environments really remind me of Bloodborne, like some of
Yep.
the detail, lots of detail. The grass especially. It really it looks like Bloodborne.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. I thought that a little bit. It looks kind of like that Victorian old architecture that's in a majority of, or at least the beginning of Bloodborne. So that'd be kind of interesting to kind of meld those two styles together.
Yeah, and another thing you'll notice in the screenshots, there's a scene that shows, it looks like it's supposed to be a boss battle, but there's tons of swords in the ground, like ghost
Yeah, I
swords.
saw that. Yeah.
Who knows what that could be? I mean, it's very interesting. Now, if this is all true, I'm sure that it just hasn't been confirmed or denied because of how close E3 is. This is
Yeah.
almost like building hype. Now, this could be a controlled leak. This could just be what these companies do, when they want to build hype on something, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I wouldn't be surprised.
this next part is, how could Dark Souls 3 be announced so soon if that's what this is? Because even though Dark Souls 2 came out last year, we had the expansion, the Sins of the Scholar, whatever it's called, just came out, and which is kind of a newer game where they kind of changed things around. But like, on one hand, it's like, man, this seems soon. On the other hand, it's like, who cares? It's more Dark Souls. I mean, that's
Yeah, basically.
let's see. So what are your thoughts on that?
I until you brought it up in our little outline we have, I never actually really thought about it, how quickly it could have been announced. It's rumored to be out next year, which is
That's
a
right.
year after Bloodborne and only 2 years after Dark Souls 2, and then only a year after the Scholar of the First Sin reissue. So that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
I know that the Scholar of the First Sin was mostly DLC and just moving enemies around, and I mean, it's more than that, but so I'm sure that didn't take a huge amount of time and resources to do, but was Miyazaki working concurrently with Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne? That seems like that's kind of really splitting his time. Now, does that mean the B team, the quote-unquote B team, which did Dark Souls 2, is also working on Dark Souls 3, and he's only overseeing it like I apparently oversaw Dark Souls 2? Is he more committed to it? Is he just going straight Bloodborne? I never really thought about it, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, because, see, like, I was, reading, I was in discussions online about this because I love talking about this stuff, and from what someone said, and so I don't know how true this is, though, with Demon Souls and with Bloodborne, they're actually co-developed by Sony Japan Studio. So it could be a lot of the legwork, like on Bloodborne, was done by the Sony studio. So his main team could focus on, okay, Dark Souls 3. It's like, we'll do Dark Souls 1, B team will do Dark Souls 2, we'll work on Dark Souls 3. Sony's like, hey, I want you guys to make a game, what do you want to make? Because from what I understand, he thought, oh, let's use the PS4 and make an awesome looking game. We'll make it, Bloodborne. So it could be that these teams had, they were kind of almost three teams in a way with Sony.
Yeah.
Because as similar as these games are, it's like Bloodborne's really a different series almost.
It's really different. I didn't think they were so different at first, but I went back and I played a tiny bit of Demon Souls a couple weekends ago before my PS3 died, and I was amazed at how much different it was. I tried playing Demon Souls like I played Bloodborne, and that did not work at all.
Okay. All right. So, this kind of touches on what I was talking about earlier. So, if this isn't Dark Souls 3, what could it be? So, and originally, I was reading those certain points that said, like, where is it? New lighting. Yeah, light sources, enemy layouts have been changed. 45 new enemies, 15 new bosses. It's like, new. Does that mean this could be a Dark or a Demon's Souls remaster? I don't know if any of the areas in the screenshots happen to look like any of the areas from Demon's Souls.
Actually, I'll take a look at them now. I didn't think that, and I don't know. I'm gonna take a look at them right now, and I don't think anything looks too much like Demon's Souls.
Because that's the one game I haven't played yet, and I need to. But that could be it, and that could be what this whole thing with the bosses, where you can kind of like make them harder. Maybe that's for people that have played this before. But yeah, all these things where it says like new this, new that. Light source layouts have been changed.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. It's very specifically worded like that. I would say it doesn't look like Demon Souls. If it was some sort of like Demon Souls HD remaster for PS4, that would be incredibly awesome, and I would
Yeah.
definitely buy it. I mean, if it's not Dark Souls 3, I can't think of what else it would be.
Well,
Um,
let's maybe it's next gen only expansion for Dark Souls 2. Maybe because the graphics
that
are
would
really
be
good.
Yeah, the graphics look awesome.
What if it's an expansion for Bloodborne that ties into the Dark Souls lore? I mean,
That would be pretty interesting.
yeah, that would be. I mean, because yeah, it's just the way things are worded. But then again, I don't know the source, and I don't know if the documents, who's leaked. Who knows how it
Hmm.
was worded or the intentions
Yeah,
of the original leak. Was it worded in-house? Was it worded for marketing purposes? You know.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So if this is a Dark Souls 3, what would we want that we haven't even seen in any of these leaks? What are we wanting from a Dark Souls 3? What do you think?
What I want, I made myself a little list here,
Hmm.
and I could probably think of other ones too, but sort of, I guess mine are mostly compared to. I tried to keep it on Dark Souls and not get any of my Bloodborne thoughts and opinions into it,
Yeah.
which was a little bit hard. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess directly compared to the first two Dark Souls, maybe even just Dark Souls 2, I'd like to see less mob style boss battles
Hmm.
because there seems like you're only maybe halfway through the game or not even halfway through the game.
Hmm.
Dark Souls 2 has a lot of bosses that are like either fighting multiple enemies or fighting like a mob of regular enemies along with the boss or
Right. Yeah, I've
whatever.
actually come across that a few times already.
Yeah, and I don't hate him as much as a lot of other people do online, but it gets a little old. Along with the humanoid and knights, there was a lot of like humanoid knight kind of bosses in Dark Souls 2,
Hmm.
which is something I really like about Bloodborne. They're almost all monsters, and like Demon Souls was almost all monsters, and Dark Souls I think was almost all monsters as well.
Yeah,
I'm a monster guy, so
me
I
too.
love that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Dark Souls was, and that's another thing that stuck out to me right away with Dark Souls 2 is how all the enemies are humanoid, and which isn't bad. I mean, that could be its setting, but like I loved the creepy monsters that were in
Yeah,
Dark Souls 2. I loved when I remember there was a GIF I saw forever where someone's running in the dark and it's the catacombs, and then they see like that weird skeleton with the dog, not a dog skeleton, but had its like arms out like on the ground,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
yep,
they
yeah.
go
I know
nope
exactly what you're talking
and
about.
turn around, and I was like, man, if I could just one day figure out how to play Dark Souls, and then I came across that, and it was the coolest feeling. Like that
Yeah,
was freaky,
yep.
and overcoming that because it's the visual. When I see a humanoid enemy or knight in Dark Souls 2 now, I'm like, well, I'll just get behind them. I won't lock on.
Yeah,
I'll just go behind and yeah.
yeah. They're not really. I mean, they're intimidating, but they're not scary. They're not
Yeah.
freaky. They're just they're knights. They got swords. They got spears. And there was certainly that stuff in Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but a lot of the bosses are in Dark Souls 2 are that humanoid thing. So as far as Dark Souls 3 goes, I'd like to see, I guess, more monsters.
Yeah. Definitely more monsters. All right. What else do you have on your list?
Um, a bigger emphasis on covenants. I feel like they still haven't worked out all the kinks for covenants as far as the first two Dark Souls. I think it's an amazing idea, and if they did it better, it would be great. Some of the covenants, like the heirs of the sun or whatever it's called, where you get the golden soapstone and you look like Solaire from the first game.
Oh.
Like those are really fun, but some of the other ones, what is it like the Bellkeeper Covenant wasn't that great, and the rat. I don't remember the names of them. The rat one where you have to like set traps was really cool, but I don't think it was implemented that well. So I guess just a bigger emphasis or more streamlined on the covenants.
I could
I
see
think
that.
that'd be good.
Um, yeah, the Covenants, like, you could really play through the game and it not matter. I kind of wish maybe in a way it would. Another idea would be maybe a Covenant would boost certain stats depending on
Yeah,
what Covenant you join. Maybe Faith is higher for, a faith-based one, but
yeah, that'd be cool.
could limit. I don't know. I loved in the first Dark Souls and I forget what it's called. It's in the forest where you is it where you invade a world of an invader or something like that?
Yeah, you have to like protect the forest, so you have like
Yeah,
a ring that calls you into
yeah.
worlds of people that aren't in the covenant and they're in the forest and
Oh,
so
is that what
something
it
like
is?
that.
Okay.
I think so because if you're not part of the covenant and you run through the forest, you can get
Yeah, you get
I'm
attacked
pretty sure
by. Yeah, those. I remember there other player character, not player, but how to explain it? Like in Bloodborne, I call them hunters. Anyone that wasn't
yeah
a monster was a hunter. So they had those in Dark Souls. You would be attacked by them, but if I had the ring on and joined the Covenant, they wouldn't attack me. And then
yeah
all of a sudden, I'd see a red character come in um, and yeah, I like that. I mean, there was something like that I just got to in Dark Souls 2, but I didn't really understand what it was trying to tell me. There's an area, it's really short, and I think it's the bell one you were talking about, but I have guys invading like constantly. Like I'm just trying to get to the boss, and then like I had two guys invade, and I was like,
yeah it's so annoying.
yeah. All right, what else you got on this thing?
I just have I had a healthy amount of weapons, which we kind of talked about already. It looks like they're probably gonna have a good amount, and
Yeah.
then I have maybe a good story that doesn't have to be thrown in my face, but a good story that maybe ties into the first two games, ties in to complete them or something. I don't know. I didn't think about it that well, but something that connects all three of the games
And well,
would be nice.
so I haven't beat the second one yet, and I guess in some aspects story doesn't matter. But is there any crazy revelation about Dark Souls 1 that happens in Dark Souls 2?
I don't know if I'd say crazy revelation, but when you beat the game and play through a new game plus, there's certain bosses that will I won't spoil it, but will drop things that directly reference things in the first Dark Souls. I don't know if there's any huge revelations about that
Oh,
story,
okay.
but it's still pretty cool stuff. It kind of ties into the whole nature of what the game is trying to say, which I don't know if I want to spoil it yet, but
Yeah, we'll wait on that because pretty soon I'll be done with
yeah,
2, and we'll have a 2 cast. I don't know.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that would be great.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think those are good points, and I actually agree with all that. If they made a third one, I would want a lot more monsters. I mean, I really want to fight monsters. I would actually like now that I'm getting further in Dark Souls 2 and seeing how many places there are, the warping is not a big deal. I do though like if the first part of the game, and it could be the first third, first quarter, there's no warping, where it kind
Uh-huh.
of forces you to really get to know the area around you, like the
Yeah.
first Dark Souls did.
Yep.
Because it's like thinking back to like Forest of the Giants or other places. Like I don't even really think about it anymore because I went through it once and then I didn't have to go through it again. You
Yep.
know, but other than that, I I mean, I would almost like there to be like out of I feel like I never know what weapon or armor to use, and it sometimes doesn't seem to matter. And I don't know if that's just me not knowing or me only having a specific play style with the way I play.
Uh-huh.
But maybe, like, for instance, I really do feel in Bloodborne the weapons really made a big difference. Each weapon was completely different, whereas in Dark Souls, so many weapons were the same.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
So,
Even though I want more weapons,
yeah.
all of them in Bloodborne are pretty unique from each other. So,
Yeah, I could say, so if they had more weapons in Dark Souls, maybe more that are unique. And something else actually I wanted to bring up real quick that I forgot to from when we were talking about new features. I also read somewhere that the bonfires, you could place them where you want to some capacity. Like you can either move them or have them in a
yeah, I think
specific
I
spot.
think I heard about that.
It'd be strange to see how that works because it's so specific in these games where a bonfire is and like.
Yeah.
But anyway, so okay, next point. I think it's the last point we've got on here. We want to cover is could the Souls games be an annual series, and would we get bored?
Yeah, I want to say up front that I love the Soul series, obviously, because I'm doing a podcast about it, and I've written like 40 blog posts about it. But if they were annual or even biannual, like every 2 years, every 2.5 years, I might get sick of them because I think it just happens with anything. Too much of a good
Yeah.
thing, no matter what it is. And I don't want it to be like Call of Duty, where it's every single year in November, it's a new one. And it's maybe it's a good game, but it's basically the last year's game, slightly
Yeah.
upped graphics, maybe obviously new maps, like a new 3 hour story mode. So I want them to take time with what they do. Um, I mean, I guess they've been about 2.5 years between games, so maybe 2 years is fine because Demon Souls was 2009, Dark Souls was 2011, Dark Souls 2 was that last year?
Yeah, that
Was it
was actually
2014?
14.
Yeah,
So
2014. So
yeah,
that was 3 years, but then a year after
Bloodborne.
that, Bloodborne, and now a year after Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3. So like really, so if they waited like maybe another 2 or 3 years for, I don't know, Bloodborne 2, I guess. I think that'd be fine. I'm fine with a Dark Souls 3 next year. They shouldn't push their luck, I guess, because I want it to be thoughtful. I want them to have the resources. I want them to have the time to do it. I don't want them to just rush it out because now Souls games are getting more popular. They're
Right.
not quite as niche as they used to be, although they're pretty niche still.
Yeah.
So those are basically my thoughts on it.
You know what? I was convinced totally, yes, I could play them all the time until your convincing argument, because it is true that, like, after a while, if it doesn't change too much, I mean, pretty much all your points. I mean, I really agree with that. Like Call of Duty, I actually play them every year when they come out. But I usually just play them for the first couple months. A lot of online multiplayer, go through the story
Yep.
mode, and that's about it. It doesn't really keep
Yep.
me more than that. It doesn't really do anything to my mind more than that.
Yeah.
So if it got to that point where these Souls games, because I really do think in order for them to come out that often, they're going to have to dumb it down. And
Probably.
I don't mean necessarily gameplay, but I mean the whole atmosphere, because I think that's what a big thing. But then we got to think, so all these games are published almost by different companies. So it's like,
Mhm.
even though From is developing them, to one company, okay, we got our Dark Souls series. That's, I think, Namco Bandai, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
they
Yeah.
did Dark Souls 2 at least. Did they do Dark Souls 1? Maybe no, maybe they did.
Actually, I have the box here. Yeah, Bandai.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, so they've got the Souls series, right? So, they kind of call the shots with that. Who knows
Yep.
if, From's like, sorry, we don't want to develop this next one. They could just hire some Western developer and hey, make a Souls
Yeah,
game.
I guess they could. I don't think I want to see that.
And then we have Demon Souls and Bloodborne, which Sony was behind. Although the first Demon Souls wasn't released by Sony here. That was actually Atlas, because Sony
Yeah, that
wasn't
was Atlas.
sure how it was going to do. And then I think, was it because of Atlas that the next game had to be called Dark Souls and not Demon Souls 2?
I think they. I'm not good with this kind of stuff, but I
Yeah.
think they like owned the Demon Souls name, so they couldn't call Dark Souls Demon Souls 2. They had to like change it or something like that, which is why I don't think there's ever going to be a Demon Souls 2 because
Yeah.
Sony doesn't outright own it or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. No. Okay. Well, so and then just to touch again on this when we get bored. So I tried Bloodborne back in April, just because, or end of February, beginning of April, just because I'd like to try games, and it's been so fun that I've beaten it multiple times. Dark Souls, and now I'm on Dark Souls 2, and I'm going crazier for it. It's like I'm not tired of, in that small span of time, I'm eating these games up, and I'm not getting tired of them. So
No, I think that's awesome that you've flown through them.
yeah,
I would have probably done the same when I first started playing Demon Souls, and like I said, really Dark Souls. They could have released 5 Dark Souls in 2011. I would have played them all. One point I will make about getting sick of them. Dark Souls 2, I bought it. I'm pretty sure I got it the day it came out. I played through it. I got the platinum for it like 2 months after it came out. They released the DLC for it. Crown of the Sunken King was the first one in like maybe June, which had been maybe only a month after I got the platinum and stopped playing. So I played through that. It was great. I got the second DLC, which came out I think a month later. Played through that. It was that was a lot of fun. And then the third DLC came out maybe like a month after that. And by then, I was starting to get a little burnt out on them,
Oh.
which I didn't think could happen. That also might have to do with I was also trying to write blogs about them, and that was just definitely adversely affecting my playing. 'Cause
Yeah.
all three of the DLCs were great, and I really thought they were a lot of fun. They were hard as hell too, but by the end, I just wanted to get them done with so I could just stop playing for a little bit. So
Wow.
I didn't think it was possible, but that he's kind of burned me out a little bit. You know, I was full gung ho for Bloodborne. My wife and I are actually playing it right now, and I could
Nice.
play it for probably quite a bit longer. Same with the other games too now.
Yeah. No, it's great. Like I don't even know. I don't even know what to do. I'll be beating Dark Souls 2 soon and say I could do New Game Plus, or I can just go to Demon Souls, or I could do Dark Souls New Game Plus. You know, it's
Dark Souls 2 has probably the best New Game Plus of all four of the games. It's the only one that really changes things. There's a couple, besides the other, what I mentioned before, some bosses dropping specific things. There's a couple boss battles that are different on New Game Plus. There's some new enemies that are added. It's a great New Game Plus experience, and it's definitely pretty tough. But compared to like Bloodborne, where it's like the exact same game, which I'm pretty sure it's the exact same game for Dark Souls and Demon Souls as well. But Dark Souls 2 has a great New Game Plus, I will say that.
yeah, because I've noticed with both Dark Souls and Bloodborne, it seemed pretty much the same. I'd be interested with the Dark Souls 2 New Game Plus. But okay, anything else we could cover for our Dark Souls 3 rumor episode?
I don't think so. I think I have anything else.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything else written down. I think that it's a pretty good amount of time to cover that.
Yeah, no, that was good. Okay, well then, all right, well guys, thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys next week with our next episode.
Yeah, peace out, everyone.